Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm your host, Srathne, and every episode I bring a comic from coast to coast, and I get to interview him. And without further ado, this is Cori Stewart from Denver. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Hey, Sarath, I'm doing well. How are you today?
Awesome. I'm doing well. Can't wait for tomorrow and Friday and Saturday. It's gonna be fun.
Super exciting. Yeah.
Yep. And so, how was your day?
Pretty good. I got to teach at a stand-up camp for girls who were, gosh, they were between like sixth grade and juniors in high school. So that was really, really fun
Wow.
for the Athena Project in Denver, which is a nonprofit that kind of empowers women in the arts.
Awesome. And I think you're perfect for the class because when I saw yet Max Taps, that was such a very informational set you had there with the
Thank you.
post-its.
Yeah, that's my thing. So my merch is post-it notes, and I got to take some of those and give those to all the girls there, and that was cool. Yeah, and they seemed
Awesome.
to like it.
Indeed. And the last comic I interviewed was actually Ethan, so it just brought me back to all
Nice.
uh, those fun times when we were on tour. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and we'll get to see him tomorrow, and that'll be so fun.
Yep, it'll be like a reunion with Charlie too, so it's like a
Mhm.
reunion of all kinds of cool things. But yep, and you tell stupid jokes for that smart people like because you believe everything is beautiful, hilarious, and tragic in almost equal measures. I'm like, I had to look for your bio online. And I'm like, that's what came up. So
Really? Oh,
yep,
that's my bio.
that's pretty awesome. How do you discover your voice in stand up?
I've been doing stand-up for a long time. I started doing original comedy speech when I was in high school. So back then, in speech, on the speech team, we had to do like a 7-minute set, very clean and mostly storytelling. And so that was kind of my foundation for stand up and taught me how to punch up stories. And then I had a kid pretty young. And so here and there through my 20s, I would do open mics and stuff, but I didn't really find what spoke to me. I would tell jokes that I thought were funny, and I think that's the most important thing. Doing things that you personally think are funny. Um, I think trying to adhere to what you think comedy should be probably makes your material worse. But so anyway, that's a tangent. But when I got back to it after uh about 7 years ago, after my kid was a little older, I had started practicing law, kind of built my career, and then I got back into stand up. And when I came back around, I started with um, more kind of like longer, more story based jokes. But then I found what I really liked doing was writing short, punchy one liner type jokes and then longer, absurd bits, and that's what I think has worked the best for me and what makes me happiest, what I
I
write the
agree.
best.
I thought you were fantastic, and that's why I'm like, I gotta get you on the festival this year. It
Ah,
would be
thank you.
awesome.
Thought you were funny too. You were great too. It was a good
Awesome.
show.
It really was, and it was so packed. And like when you said the 7 minutes of clean material, it took me back to when I had to do like 7 minutes of clean material at a black church in Florida, and the lady before me, she said, the S word for poop, and everyone was clutching their pearls, and I'm like, all right, how do I win them back? And I'm like, all right, Ricky Smiley taught me God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, and all something like that. And then so I said it, and and they repeated the last phrase, and I got him back. I'm like, this is fantastic. Yeah, from the
That
comic.
sounds like a win.
Oh yeah, and I closed it out with that too, and I did a callback, and like the comic after me said, "Can I use that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," because I know like that one lady before me tanked and for saying a curse word. Like you can't do that, and it wasn't inside of a cafeteria church or a church in a cafeteria inside of a church, so not really an actual church, but something like that. Wild times. Awesome. And so, and from doing all those like those mics in your 20s and stuff, you got to open for a lot of awesome comics like Duncan Trussell,
Well, that
Jeffrey
has
Asmus.
been since I've come back around in the last like 7 years.
Really?
Yeah, when I was doing it while when I was in school and raising my kid, I didn't have the time to like really. I was always too exhausted. I was always working 2 or 3 jobs, and so I would get in when I could. I would get it in when I could, but that wasn't very often. And so since I've started doing it again in the last 7 years, I've gotten to work with a lot of great people. Really incredible.
Indeed. And a couple of those works were, Duncan Trussell, Jeffrey Asmus, Kyle Kinane, Mary Santora, Brad Upton, and J.R. de Guzman. And so, what are some of your favorite stories with all those comics?
Uh, I really liked working with Duncan Trussell because Midnight Gospel was something that kind of got me through the pandemic. I would watch that show almost every night. It has kind of a spiritual feel to it. And so I got to talk to him a lot about like meditation and kind of existential stuff while we were in the green room. And that was really exciting. Um, they're good stories. Jared Guzman was super, super wonderful and very nice, and Mary Santora was too. And Kyle Kinane was real cool. He sat at it was at Helium, and so he sat and talked with us for hours after the show, and he was very gracious and super nice. And I really appreciated, like, he shared stories and he like listened and gave feedback, not like asking him, hey, what about this joke or whatever, but he just kind of like talked like a human being, like human perspective on doing stand up, which I think is important and good too.
Big time. And he's such a legend too. It's just
Yeah, he's so
wild.
funny.
My friend Chris Buck from Jacksonville sometimes opens for him on the road. And I remember he was on like Those Who Can't.
Hmm.
And then he's at I got him like I got him my email like from High Plains that he's actually going to be at the Paramount during the festival for High
Oh
Plains.
yeah, that's the first wave of High Plains Comics was announced, I think, yesterday, and he's the headliner for that, and that's incredible.
Yep. Have you done High Plains yet?
I'm not. I am hopeful that my day will come. I don't know when that will be, but I've done other really great festivals, and High Plains is ooh, so many packed good shows and so many incredible comics from all over the country.
I agree. I went I think last year, and I got to go to the Fine Gentlemen's Club with like Nathan Lennon, Sam Talent, and Chris
Mhm.
Charpentier, and it was such a fun show. I was like, Sam always has me dying laughing. I can't catch my breath. He's
Yeah,
just
he's
so
very
good.
funny.
Yeah, indeed. And I did their open mic at the Mutiny because I was like I the first time I did the Mutiny open mic, I just bombed. And I'm like, I'm gonna get redemption, and then I got my redemption, and I'm like, I'm so
Good.
happy. Awesome. And so also yeah, Jeffrey Asmus too, and he's a pretty big he's just blowing up at the moment. And what was he like?
Well, I've done shows. I did shows with him at Helium in St. Louis, and we did 2 evening shows, and then he sold enough tickets, they added a show, but they had to add it. It was an afternoon show. It was like a 4 o'clock show on a Saturday, which was crazy. And we also did a show in Iowa together at Lucky Cat. Not Lucky Cat. It doesn't matter. We did a show together in Iowa. And he's very funny. And he is smart, super smart. Like he knows, like he's just like trivia at the drop guy like that. And he's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I interviewed him just like I'm interviewing you now, and he had a show in St. Augustine. at a really cool clothing shop. And in the back area is like a stage where they have like monthly comedy shows. It's called Paper Route, so it's a pretty
Oh,
cool
that sounds
spot.
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you've performed in headline comedy clubs, festivals, breweries all over the country. And what's your favorite stories from each of those, whether it's a festival setting, club setting, and a brewery?
Hmm. My probably my favorite place to perform is would and it was my is I guess still my home club since Helium in St. Louis is has always been like very near to dear and dear to me because the people who work there are great, so nice, so friendly. Um, I don't have any like super wild stories. We would stay and hang out and bullshit around until 3 o'clock in the morning. And Helium is in a mall basement, so you wouldn't be able, you wouldn't think you'd be able to do that. I have some horror stories. I was on a tour a couple years ago, and it was supposed to be like a brewery tour. And when I got there, the guy who had sent like a deposit and stuff and travel money. But when we got there, there was our first show was supposed to be in Miami. When we got there, there was like this storm of the century, and I'm sure lots of storms of the century in Miami, but the water driving through the streets was up to my car window.
Oh no.
Um, and so I like pushed through that to get to the hotel that we were staying at. And when I got there, um, understandably, we were told that our show had been canceled for the next night because of the flooding. Turns out that the guy who's producing it and booking, he had sent us posters and stuff for the shows, but he hadn't really booked them. And so like he sent me money to show up in and three other comics to show up in from like one guy from Philly, one guy from I don't know, somewhere like Kentucky or something. He gave us all money to show up to do these shows, but then there weren't shows to do, and he was like, "I thought we'd just take a PA with us and end up somewhere." And I was like, "That is crazy. That is
Wow,
insane."
that is insane.
So I ended up bailing after like the second show, which wasn't really a show. And I spent, I think, like a week and a half in Atlanta, and it was great. And then I went home. I also, on the way back, I stopped at Universal Studios
Oh,
in Orlando. And that was nice. It
heck yeah.
was fun.
I went in. I never went to the amusement park side of them, or like there's like five parks, but I went and saw Jim Jeffries at the Hard Rock Live,
Oh,
and
sick.
oh, he's so awesome. I didn't know how dirty he was until I went and saw him. So it's great. Awesome. And I've never done like I've lived in Florida for like over like a decade, and I have yet to do a show in Miami because like
Really?
yep, the drive is just bonkers all the way down there, and it's like more crowd work and Spanish speaking comics or audience. And I'm like, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
stick to like Orlando and like Melbourne and Daytona and stuff. It's just Central Florida is like the hotbed for comedy, so it's really nice.
Is it really?
Hmm.
What's the comedy scene like there?
Oh, I love it. They're so supportive and really great rooms. The pay is horrible, but it's still fun. Like I don't know, and everyone knows me, and so like I'm well connected to like everyone because I used to have my camera with me and I interviewed all the comedians. There's like 1,000 interviews on my YouTube channel just for comedians there,
Oh,
like
wow.
open micers to headliners and. But overall, I enjoy the comedy scene here because it never snows, so you can always do a show every single month, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Are you in Florida right now?
Oh no, I'm in Colorado. I've been
No.
here since July 2nd, and I had to go see
Okay.
Wu Tang and run the jewels on the 4th of
Oh
July.
yeah, that how was that?
It was
I saw
amazing.
pictures. It looked incredible.
Yeah, and I found out that Mike Stanley was there too, and like we
Mhm.
we like thick skin together. I got pulled out of the bucket, and we were just like talking about how cool the concert was, and it was just awesome. Yep. And I remember like during when the world shut down in 2020, I interviewed a bunch of St. Louis comics and like there's a comic that I can't remember from the top of my head at the moment because I would always see his post, but he would always like make a caption for the New Yorker, and it would always say this mother effer.
Oh, Yale Hollander.
Yep, Yale Hollander, there it
Yeah.
is. Yep, so he every time that comes up, I'm like, where's the caption for this New Yorker?
Yeah, Yale's very funny.
Oh yeah, I
He's also a
agree.
lawyer. He and I are, that was our kind of comedy connection. We were both attorneys too.
Awesome. And wasn't there like a trolley that goes through St. Louis or something, a
Yeah,
train?
he had a comedy show on the trolley, and apparently some people say that that shut down the trolley, but I don't think that's true. I think it was just a bad idea.
Just a bad idea. I don't blame you.
The trolley.
Yep, yep. My
Not the
friend,
comedy show. The comedy show would be fun.
ah, that's awesome. Yeah, he talked to like Robert Hall. I'm not sure if you were there when he was there, but
Yeah, he lives there now.
uh-huh. Yep. He that's
Robert
how I
Allen
met.
Hall.
Yep. He had this song about the Toy Story song. I got a friend in me or something, and I'm like, oh dear, and because like he would come down from Jacksonville and do stand up with me in Daytona, and so that's how we met, and we became good friends in Jacksonville, and then he moved away. So, yep,
Yeah,
crazy
he's a good
times.
guy.
Yeah, all the St. Louis comics are pretty nice. The ones that I've met, including yourself and Neil and Robert.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I
awesome.
think St. Louis has a pretty good comedy scene, and I really appreciated it while I lived there. It was where I, kind of found myself.
Heck yeah. I'll have to send you the playlist of all the St. Louis comics, and maybe I
Okay.
remember them. It's been like
Yeah.
5 years though, so it's been a while. Awesome. And so yeah, for Corey, the next few questions are the questions I ask everyone. So with that
Okay.
being said, what inspired you from stand-up comedy?
What ins I always loved watching I started watching Saturday Night Live, and a lot of Comedy Central every day after school, plus stand-up specials on HBO or uh, they used to be on VH1. There used to be a lot of stand-up on there. So when I was a kid, like young, 9 to whatever through high school, that was my favorite thing to watch. And so kind of like fostered that interest for me.
Awesome. And what was the
How about
film like?
you?
Oh, me? I
Yeah.
okay, so I did my internship in like Los Angeles, and I was in the horror movie industry, and I
Cool.
would come to the office and I would tell these silly stories of all my adventures when I was running errands all over LA. And the person I was apprenticing for, he goes, "Have you ever tried stand up instead of horror?" And I'm like, no, but I'll do it if he asks me to, as a promise. And so I promised him, and I did it. And but
Amazing.
yep, and that's I got the bug, and the host thought I was Andy Kaufman because I switched from my superhero alter ego to my regular human side. So it was pretty awesome. I
Yeah.
loved it, but that inspired me the most, and you kind of have to be forced off the ledge and see if you like,
Yeah.
you know,
I tell everyone they should try it once, I think.
it's so fun. Yeah.
It is so fun.
Indeed. And yeah, and plus watching like all the before I got into stand up, it was like watching like Richard Pryor and like listening to Dolomite records and like watching Eddie
Mhm.
Murphy. Those are the three main influences of that's why I'm such a dirty comedian. It's just because of that combination of those comics. So
It's funny you say that because my mom and I, when we would go yard sailing on Saturday mornings, I found albums and cassette tapes of comics. And so Steve Martin albums were like a big deal for me. I remember listening to those over and over and over again when I was a kid.
awesome. Have you read any of his books?
I've not.
Oh,
Um, what do you recommend?
uh,
What should I check out?
I say Born Standing Up is one of the best ones to read. And then he also has like a picture book about him and his film career. And it's so
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, he talks about like the jerk and all that stuff. And,
I
uh,
love The Jerk.
oh, it's amazing. Good stuff. And like, what the father of the bride or something like that and all that other stuff.
Mhm.
It just takes you on a journal of his film career. It's so awesome. easy
That
reads.
sounds
So,
really good. I think I'd like that.
yep. So both of those
I'll look
books I
into it.
highly recommend. So, yep. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
What did it feel like when I first performed?
Hmm.
Um, when I first started, so I had a little bit of theater experience before I started stand up, and I was always like the kid who talked during class and who interrupted at when I went to church. I would interrupt like during the children's sermon or whatever. I would like interrupt the pastor and start talking. So I always like um I loved just getting laughs and jokes, joking around and stuff. And so I think when I think the form of stand up original comedy speech that I did when I was a teenager was kind of different than what I do now, because now I like that that it I kind of engage with the audience rather than like do a one person show. And that's how it felt for not only when I was doing speech, but also for the first year or two when I was doing stand up. Like I just wanted to say what I was going to say and then be done. But now I like, even if I tell my jokes, I like to kind of mix it up and engage with the audience and like give them post-it notes during my set or, uh, like start side conversations sometimes. Um, I like it to be more interactive now, I think. At first it was just a platform for me to to perform, and now I like that it feels more genuine and more interactive.
That's what I loved, and that's what it stood out. Your performance like stood out through the entire like run that we had with Charlie, and
Oh,
it was just like it's
oh my gosh, thank you so much.
you're welcome, and I had such a ball just watching you and just interacting with the crowd. It was just magic.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Corey. And so and we mentioned that you went to the garage sale and saw all those records and stuff and HBO and stuff. And what are your favorite comedy specials, comedy record albums, and comedy podcasts?
I like I really love Rory Scovel. His first two specials, I think, I watched over and over again. Uh, Wild and Crazy Guy was a Steve Martin album that I had. um, what else? I like Live at the Purple Onion, Zach Galifianakis. I like kind of like bizarro, kind of absurdist comedy. I really liked Maria Bamford, not only her specials, but also the show that she did for Netflix was great. Mark Maron's show was good. Yeah.
Awesome, excellent choices. I love Rory Scovel too. Like he did like during the when the world shut down, he did that documentary on the Relapse Theater in Atlanta, and it
Mhm.
took me back because like when I went on my like one of my first tours, it was called the Dirty Son of a Peach tour, and like SG1 and Peach because they did Florida and Georgia, and uh,
Mhm.
and I got to perform at the Relapse Theater, and it was such an amazing feeling before it shut down. It was just, uh, and the background was so neat. I was like, man, I miss this place. Yeah, yep. And a couple of those folks have been on TV and film. And what are your favorite sitcoms, sketch shows, and comedy films?
Sketch shows. I loved um, the Ben Stiller show, which was very, very short-lived, but I had a DVD that I found of it and like after it was on, and it was incredible. It was Bob Odenkirk and David Cross were some of the writers, and then Janine Garofalo, um, Ben Stiller, Andy Dick, just an incredible cast. I love The State, old school sketch. I watch I Think You Should Leave so much. The Detroiters. Tim Robinson is so funny. Uh, I've never really been a sitcom person. Um, I do love sketch though. I watch a lot of sketch. Sketch is something that I really, really like.
Awesome. Now everyone keeps on mentioning I think you should leave, and now that I'm at like my dad's house in Colorado, I'm like he has Netflix. I'm gonna just play and see what I think
Yeah,
of
you should.
it. So, yeah. I don't
That
have
was
any of
another
those
show
streaming.
during the pandemic I would put on. You can watch like a whole season in maybe 2 hours, so 2 or 3 hours. So I would watch I Think You Should Leave, Midnight Gospel, and Russian Doll while I did a painting. And that kind of got me through, 2020.
Awesome. Now I gotta watch Russian Doll and Midnight. What was it again? Midnight
Midnight Gospel. That's
Gospel.
Duncan Trussell's.
Oh,
It's his podcast, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour,
oh,
animated.
sweet. Now I gotta check all of those out. That sounds like fun. And let's see here. And favorite comedy films.
Oh, This Is the End. I watch that a lot. Uh, I like any Will Ferrell movie. I like what I just rewatched. Gosh, crazy that I can't remember it. Geez. I like The Jerk. Sunset Boulevard is one of my favorite movies, and it's like darkly comic. But that's probably my favorite movie of all time.
Wow, that's so awesome. When you said Sunset Boulevard, like I watched like the play theater version of it,
Mhm.
and in this small theater in Pueblo at the Impossible Playhouse,
Cool.
and I'm like, this is so cool. I got to see like in live. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's so darkly funny, and like it's such a kind of comment on celebrity and also aging in public or out of public view. Yeah, I think it's great.
I think so too. Yep. And if you can go on tour with any comedian, locally and internationally known, which comics would you like to go on tour with?
Oh, wow, that's a hard one. I think I would go on tour with who do I think I'd mesh well with? So hard. I really like Taylor Tomlinson. She performed at Helium before she really like blew up, and I think she's incredible. I like um, there are just so many people that I really admire and would love to do shows with.
Awesome. And if you can get roasted by five comedians, top five dead or alive, which comics would you like to get roasted by?
Roasted. Oh gosh, that's also very hard. These are hard questions. I think I would get roasted by Dead or Alive. Maybe George Carlin. He seems like he'd be smart and on the nose. Maybe that would be too mean. Nikki Glazer, who's from St. Louis. Um, who would you get roasted by? Give me some ideas.
Oh, I've already got roasted. That was my very first show, actually. And like,
Oh, really?
Charlie McMullen was my roast master, and John Brown was like the second comic up, and like the other three were like part of the music industry in Pueblo, and so and yeah, that's it, like it's a one of the best roasts you'll ever watch because they went straight for my jugular, and I was like, this is fantastic. And it's always the best ones when like they personally know you, and like it's like
Mhm.
they'll roast you and then they'll toast you, and it's just lovely. It's nice. But yeah, John Brown and Charlie said some really mean things, but they were like the best mean things ever. So, indeed, I'll have to send you the link so you'll love it. It's like a whole hour and it's totally
Yeah,
worth.
I'd love to.
Yep. And
I don't really so like roasting isn't my something that I really like very much. And
mhm,
so like I think I would rather do like a honey roast or like a boast instead.
yeah,
And then I'd pick my friend Ella Fritz, who can be very she's both very like she can be kind of caustic, but she also like really loves her friends. Probably my friend and comic Jordan Etzel, who's funny and knows me pretty well. I think it would have to be people that you know pretty well. Maybe Chris Sear, comic from St. Louis. Uh, Mitch Jones, maybe.
Awesome. And I met him in
And
Springs. He's awesome.
yeah, he's very funny. And one more person, probably there's a young comic named Andrew Gaffigan who I started doing stand up with at about the same time, and so he's very very funny, and we know each other well. So yeah, I
Excellent
think it would
choice.
be more people that I know. I
Yeah,
think.
it's much more heartwarming when it's those folks. And let's see here. Where do you see your comedy during the next 5 years?
Well, I feel like since I've moved to Denver, I kind of slowed down a little bit. So I've started a new job and moved in the last month and a half. And so I would like to start, um, I started a mic, like a mixed comedy mic. So I'd like to work on building on that and also starting some um, versions of shows that I ran in St. Louis here. And I'd like to get back to like touring more and doing more festivals because I've kind of focused on the move and I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable here. And so I think I'm ready to get back to like writing new jokes and focusing on building more, I think.
Awesome. And that's a pretty awesome thing. And I'm finally landing this ship because like my last Horizon Serath Fest in Daytona Beach. So it's in October. So I'm like, I'm just gonna land this ship and just tour the country and play Qbert and just be happy. That's what makes me
That
happy
sounds so good. Yeah.
now. Awesome. And let's see here. What's your favorite joke a comic has written?
Oh, oh my gosh, that's so hard. Uh, my favorite joke any comic has ever written. Oh, that's a tough one. I like favorite joke. Favorite joke. Favorite joke. Oh, there's so many. There's just so many good. I love like Mitch Hedberg jokes. Like maybe the one that I think of the most is I'm tired of chasing my dreams. I'm just gonna ask where they're going and meet up with and hook up with them later. That's one of my favorites. And he did a joke about how escalators never break because they're still stairs. I like, yeah,
I love him too. Like Mitch is such a great one. Like one-liners, his one-liners are just
mhm,
legendary. Yep,
yeah.
and I love that dreams one because man, that's where I feel like at this moment in life. So, yep, all my
Too.
wildest dreams came true. So I was like, all right, where are my other dreams? I'll catch up with them later. But and which you've done theater and stand up, and which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv and sketch and so forth, comedy writing?
I like to do so my I like to do a lot of character comedy and so I the one of the shows that I did in St. Louis and did at Denver Fringe Fest was called The Show. And so it's kind of a mixed variety talent show where improv or stand-up comics have to do a talent as kind of a character within a theme. So, for example, um, the one that we did at Denver Fringe Fest was was the talent show, junior high talent show. And my friend Teal from St. Louis and I co-hosted it, and Ella Fritz was our guest host. And then we had 8 different comics each night who did silly bits, and we had everything from like Mitch Jones making balloon animals, Katie Bowman did like the super fun hype girl dance, Jordan Etzel built she was a lunch lady who built like a house out of silverware, just man, just so many fun, creative acts, and that's what I really like. I like kind of like um, bizarro performance comedy too.
That's awesome. Yep. I just, like I've heard of like, when you mentioned Denver Fringe, that's like they have one in Orlando and it's
Hmm.
over 30 years old. And like I did my one person show there the first year that I did it. And then and then I finally brought my friends along. And it's so much fun better when you bring your friends along.
Someone that I met at Fringe Fest said that Orlando's was the biggest and the oldest
Yep. It's
in the
true.
country. Well, I mean, Edinburgh is the
Yep.
original, and like it's the largest performance art festival, I think, in the world, and it goes for like 30 days. But Orlando is pretty big and impressive too.
Yep. I think it goes on for like 2 weeks and there's so many venues just pop up
Mhm.
and bring BYOV and all that good stuff. And it's just wonderful. So hopefully the show will be here in Orlando and I'll come and support you.
Yeah, or you could do an act if you want.
Oh, I'm tired of performing, uh, but I think their application process thing is open in like in October or something, and so
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yep. And let's see here. What experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
I want them to be, well, I want them to have fun, and I want them to think that it was unexpected and silly, and that they had a good time.
Awesome, fantastic, Corey. And so this is the Stand Up Speakeasy. It's a secret society of stand-up comics. And so with that being said, which comics would you like to see on a future episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy?
Um, well, I think Mitch would be great. I think Chris Sear would be a good one. Uh, Ella Fritz, St. Louis would be great.
Awesome, and two more.
Two more. Okay. Let's see. I've got Chris, Mitch, Ella, Katie Bowman, and Paul Cheragino, who is another
Awesome.
St. Louis guy.
And what great St. Louis comics for sure, and Denver ones too. And so, and what are the last question is what are your some of your shows that are coming up
I
appearances?
have what do I have coming up? I have a show in Silverton tomorrow. Let me see if I can find the flyer for that. It should be a good one. The headliner is Movida and Cara Leone is on that. Me. Um, it's a pretty stacked lineup hosted by Jeremy Cash. I've just got to find the venue, and I'm going to do that right now. And gosh, I have. Oh, I'm doing Laugh Out Loveland next, the festival next, or the last weekend of July. And so I'm doing a bunch of great shows for that. And so if you look up Laugh Out Loveland, you can find all the details for the festival. There are so many great comics coming in from all over the country. The show that I'm doing on July 18th, Friday, is at Flipside Theater. And that's going to be a really good one. It's a fantastic lineup. And then I am going to also find the information for Laugh Out Loveland, because I'm super excited about that. It's such a great festival, lots of comics from not only Colorado, but all over the country. Just packed out shows for, I think, 4 or 5 nights.
Wow, that's good stuff. And also you have Sareth Fest too.
Sareth Fest too, but I thought we were plugging that together,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's tomorrow.
yep, that's tomorrow. And yeah, and we have that at the downtown bar, and you're gonna love the mural on the side. It has like Richard Pryor and Lucille Ball, and
I do love that. I already
oh,
love it.
Yep. So there's no stage or nothing, but that's where Charlie and I pretty much got our chops, like in 2014. So I'm like, I'm gonna bring it back and where it all started, kind of
Oh,
thing.
amazing.
Yeah. And then Friday is it'll be at the downtown or the Smitty's Greenlight Tavern. It's music only. On Saturday, it's going to be like storytelling and improvised stand up and called Alphabet Soup and punk band in the daytime. And then at nighttime, it's going to be all metal bands and then Mo Alexander and Compton Smith and stuff. And so it's all free to
Oh
get
my
in.
gosh, what a great lineup.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. Help them out on their tour because I know that they're passing through. So I'm like, I'll help you again. It's gonna no problem. And like Compton had me on his Mobile Comedy Fest too, so that was wild and fun. Awesome. So yeah, thank you. And shout out to K Nails and Spa, Kwan's Kitchen, and Chico for helping me out with this whole thing as well, and all the venues and all the comedians and musicians that are beyond that are on the bill. And so Cori, any final words from you?
No, I really appreciated you having me on. Thank you. I'm super excited for Sareth Fest, and it's going to be my first time in Pueblo, so
Oh wow.
looking forward to it.
Don't forget to bring merch and your post-its too. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay, I will.
Awesome, awesome, Corey. Thanks so much for being my guest on Stand Speakeasy
Thank
and
you.
everyone else. Take care and be safe and look out for.